Buenos días, buenas tardes, buenas noches y bienvenidos al primer tutorial de Praat. El programa Praat, que significa habla en holandés, es un programa completamente gratuito que permite, entre muchas cosas, el análisis fonético, síntesis de habla y síntesis articulatoria. Fue diseñado y desarrollado por Paul Bersma y David Winnick de la Universidad de Ámsterdam y se encuentra con una comunidad enorme de usuarios que constantemente están creando y compartiendo scripts. Scripts son programas o instrucciones para que el programa Praat automatice alguna función. En este primer tutorial vamos a bajar e instalar Praat y luego aprender cómo conseguir un sonido para llevar a cabo un análisis.
Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is download Praat, and the easiest way to do that is just go to Google, enter Praat, and then the first hit that comes up will be this. And so we can just go to the website. And here you see download Praat, and then you have all the platforms, so whichever one is appropriate for your machine. In my case, it's the Macintosh. And so first thing we're going to do is download this version right here. The latest update is very recent. Click on that and we start the download. Bueno, antes de despedirnos de Paul y David, los diseñadores del programa, there's a few things that we can explore on this web page. So, for example, there's a beginner's manual. If you go down to here to questions, problems, and solutions, they point out that there's an intro tutorial, and as a matter of fact, in Praat's help menu, which is very useful. It's mostly textual, but still it's useful nonetheless. There's an FAQ that you can consult. You can also join this Yahoo group called Praat User List and post questions or read people's responses to other people's questions. And as a last case scenario, you can send an email to Paul himself, and he'll answer. And he's, I've noticed, very active in the Praat user list. If you go down a little farther, you'll see more specific help regarding these specific functions that you can check out on your own, and then we'll likely check out during the semester. Now we'll close out of here, and okay, now that we have Praat downloaded to the desktop, we're just going to open and install it. This will of course be different depending on your operating system, or PC, Mac, that type of thing. So I'm going to double click the icon. As you can see, this comes up. You can stick it on your menu example. You can see I've already done that, so I'm not going to do that now. You can put in your applications, whatever you want to do with it. What we're going to do with it right now is just simply open it and start using it. So just double click, you get a warning that you're opening something from the internet, major danger possibility, and you just open it. Okay, so we'll clear out some stuff. Two things come up. You get the Praat Objects window and the Praat Picture window. The Praat Picture window we're not going to mess with right now, so we'll just close that. And now we're ready to start with our first recording and create a sound file to work with. Okay, so this is the Praat Objects window. It's open and it's maximized, covering the whole screen. It really doesn't need to be open all the way. I'm just doing this to avoid the distracting icons on my desktop. So the first thing we're going to do is create a sound file. And to do that, go to the Praat menu, New, open this, and hit Record Mono Sound. There's also a short key. The defaults are already set, and they're fine for our purposes. The mono channels. The input sources, we're using the built-in mic. You could use another one if you wanted to. And the sampling frequency is here, and 44,000 hertz. It's just fine. So we're going to record. We'll go ahead and start recording my voice. As you can see, the bar indicates that it is indeed recording. In fact, if I talk loud, we can see that that's also one way to test it out. So we'll go ahead and stop there, and we're going to name the recording. Let's just put test. We can, if we wanted to do more tests, if we wanted to create more sounds, we would just save it to the list. If we just want to use this one sound, then we'd save to list and close. So we'll go ahead and choose that option. And then we see that the sound file is in the object window. It should be, it's normally number 1, but since I have opened and been doing things earlier with Praat, it's number 4 now. It doesn't really matter. Now we're going to go annotate to text grid, and this will allow us to make notes about the sound file. So right now you'll get Mary, John, and something else, but right now I'm going to be using phrase, word, and segment. It asks you which of these are point tiers, and we'll get into the difference later about the point tiers, but basically the tier names as a default, it's going to be an interval tier, which allows you to segment durations of an interval, whereas the point tier just gives you one point in time. So we're going to hit OK, and now we select them both and we click view and edit, and here we have the first sound file that we're going to look at perhaps. Okay. Okay, now that we've got the sound recording open and we're ready to make annotations, you see we've got the phrase boundary here, or the phrase tier here, the word tier, and the segment tier. We can see the sound up here in the waveform. This is the waveform, and then this is the spectrogram, which we're too far out right now to see anything. So what we're going to do now is zoom in a little bit onto some particular sound, and so let's check this out. Looks like we'll select it between 2 pauses. Now, did you see how I did that? I'm going to go ahead and delete that and redo it. You mark somewhere in the waveform where you want to make the mark. Then you go down to the tier, and this is the phrase tier, and I'm going to click in that circle, and I've created a boundary. Now I'll go to the other spot where I want to mark. We'll pop there, and then go down and click again and create another boundary. And then we've got the phrase tier. Now we click inside the phrase tier, and you see the whole thing's highlighted, and then we can listen to it.
In fact, if I talk loud, we can see. In fact, if I talk loud, we can see.
And so you can click in this, if you look down here at the time bar, you can click in this area and it'll play just what's selected.
In fact, if I talk loud, we can see.
And then if you click over here, it'll play everything prior to the sound. And if you click here, it will play everything after the sound. Okay, so that's how we create tiers. Okay, now that we've got that phrase boundary set, we can make an annotation. So let's listen to the sound.
In fact, if I talk loud, we can see.
And notice that the text appears here and up here in case you need to edit it. Now the 5 bottoms at the bottom, we have all, in, out, select, and back. All will show the entire sound file. In, like it sounds, zooms in, out, zooms out, and then select, since we've got this interval selected, will maximize the screen to show just this interval. So let's try that. Select, and now we can see, and it's close enough now that we can actually start to look at the spectrogram. Okay, so let's look a little bit at some of the options that we have in Praat for looking in the spectrogram. And we can do this without going into too much detail and looking too close, but later we'll zoom in and take a closer look. But first let's start with pulses, and what we've got here with this option, and this actually shows up in the waveform, is the blue lines, the blue vertical lines are showing that the program is detecting glottal pulsing, which is the vocal cord vibrations, in other words, voicing. Okay, we'll turn that off. And then here's our formant settings, which are already, as you can see, already being shown. But we can go to the formant settings and see what, right now the maximum formant is being set at 5500, which is probably better for a female speaker. So we'll change that to 5000. The number of formants, 4.5, seems to be doing okay, at least for the detection of the vowel and ah, fact. And we'll go ahead and leave the rest like it is. then we can go to intensity and show intensity, and that's down here. You'll notice that the intensity seems to go up during vowels and during the vowel peaks, but then drops during productions of the obstruents. So like this is fact, the f sound, then we have the vowel at, and then the kt is down here. If it starts to rise for the I, etc. Shut that off, and then pitch. Pitch is basically the measure of the F0, right? So it's showing that there's a rise of pitch for in fact, right? For the at, in fact, if we talk about it, you can see, and it drops slowly to the end of the expression or the end of the phrase. Now, if we really want to get, see more detail here, we can zoom in even more. So let's go ahead and zoom into the word fact, which will set up another boundary. So note again, I click in either the spectrogram or the waveform, and then I click in the circle where I want to mark the boundary. We'll try to do it right before the f sound, and then we'll try to find the t, which appears to be about here. Let's check that though to make sure.
Fact.
A little bit. We have a little bit of the previous sound there.
Fact.
That's close enough. So we'll mark that, and then we're going to zoom in and then out so we can see at least a little bit of the surrounding context. And here we are looking at the word centered, fact. Okay, zooming in on fact now, we can make a couple of observations. First of all, the F here, the initial sound, it's clearly a low amplitude sound in the sense that if you look at the zero crossing, its displacement is very, very low compared to the vowel over here, which is very high amplitude. Also, the noise, it's characterized by aperiodic noise. It's kind of a random distribution, which we'll see when we zoom in a little more. In fact, we can go ahead and mark this F here. Right here, we'll just put an F in there. Now if we go to the A, which kind of slowly transitions out, let's mark it here. We'll notice that the four formants are fairly clear, right? Also, it's a high amplitude noise, as again, it's displacement from the zero crossing, and the sound's fairly highly periodic, and that these waves are repeated over and over again. Obviously, not the same every time, but and then of course here the sound ends with a consonant cluster. We could try to distinguish the C, the cut, and the t, but let's just leave it like that for now.
Fact.
So this week we're going to do a little exercise with vowels, and we're going to do an analysis, a formant analysis, just of the F1 and the F2, not 3, 4, and others. So the first thing we really need to do is look at our settings and figure out what we need to do for our settings. So if we go here to formant settings, and here's the default settings. So 5500, which is good for an analysis of most women speakers, and the number of formants is set at 5. So since this is a male speaker, what we'll want to do is, the first thing we'll want to do is change it. So we're going to change it to 5,000 hertz. Again, if it were a female, we'd leave it at 5500. Now the standard number of formants here, 5, seems to be working for this particular vowel. Now we need to adjust it for other vowels, even within the same speaker perhaps. But what we want to see is that the lines, let's change this to a little bit higher dots, a little bigger dot. So they line up pretty well and are centered with the concentration of energy of F1 and F2 and F3 and 4. So it seems to be working just fine. However, let's go ahead and change the number of formants here just to see what it looks like if the readings are detecting false formants. And so we can see, like, here's a problem, this transition here is a problem, also these readings are also problematic. So what I generally do is I change this in half increments. So let's start with 6.5 and see what that does. Okay, it doesn't really fix all the problems. It's getting better. Here's a strange reading here. Let's change to 5.5. Again, better with some problems here. Change it to 5. Much better. Probably good enough. In fact, we could probably stop here. Let's go ahead and go to 4.5 just to see what happens. Okay, looks pretty good. Again, the fact that the fifth formant disappears here doesn't really matter. We're only looking at F1 and F2, and 4.5, 5 seems to be doing the trick. So we'll just do that. Okay, now that we've got the formant settings and we feel that we're not getting any false detections, we'll close out of here and actually take our measurements. So there's a bunch of ways to do this. What we're going to do for this exercise is just kind of guess the center point of the, you can either use the waveform or the spectrogram, but we'll try to guess kind of roughly what's the center. We'll set the line there, and then we're going to go up to formants again, and we're going to just put get first formant. And click that, and we can see we don't need to be this accurate with all these decimal points. So what we're going to do is go over, so this is the word fact, and we're going to go over here and we're going to record the F1, and we'll round up or round down. We'll put 807 as the F1 center. Now let's go get our F2. So same thing, we'll leave that there. And we'll go get second formant. Click on that, and that is 1643. So where's our Excel file? 1643. Okay, and so you're going to do this. You're going to plot the F1 and the F2 for a list of words from a sentence that you're going to read recording yourself. And I'll explain that right now. Okay, one of the things that still needs to be explained is how to save your work and not lose it. And this is really important. It's not that intuitive in Praat as you might think. So basically we have two things to save at this point. If you already have an existing sound file that's saved on your disk and you're working with that, you don't have to worry about saving the sound file. But since we created this sound file, we do need to worry about that. So let's start with saving this actual sound file. And what we need to do is go to the Praat Objects window, and you're going to click on that, and then we're going to hit Save as Wave File. Oop, that was saved as binary file, so let's again save as wave file, and we'll save this as in fact. Okay, so that file's been saved. Now we can exit out of there. Okay, now we have this other thing. We've done these annotations here, and those are just floating in memory. They're not saved yet. So what we need to do is associate them with that text file, or save the text file, which is of course associated with that sound. And basically what that means is when we put in these delimitations or these segments, intervals, we put in these intervals, they're associated with the original sound file, and we'll have those time domains saved so they know exactly where to line up to that sound file. So in order to do that, it's either you can hit Command S, I think is the shortcut in Mac. The PC may have a different shortcut. So I'm going to just show you the kind of the menu option. So you need to go up to File, and you're going to select this one, Save Text Grid as Text File. And what we can do, we'll want to give that maybe the same name as in fact. So let's go ahead and change that to in fact text grid, and we hit save. Now everything's been saved, and we can close out of Praat, and we're not going to lose any of our work. In fact, let's go ahead and just do that now. Close out of Praat. We'll open the Praat objects again. Okay, and we're going to view and edit. And as you can see, we've got everything as before. In fact, if I talk loud, we can see. Fact. Fact. Okay, so this week's exercise with Praat, what you're going to need to do is make a recording of your own voice, as the way I showed you early on. And you're going to read the following phrase: Su papá sí toca 6 tipos de instrumentos. Toca el chucho, la gaita, el capador, y un tambor del Pacífico. And you're going to set up 3 interval tiers, the frase, palabra, y vocal. And then you're going to fill in the text for all those tiers. And then you're going to take the readings for F1 and F2, and you're going to update an Excel file that I'm going to send to you. Make sure you save your work, and let's use the following system. So you're going to name everything Praat underscore 01 underscore and then put in your last name. Of course, the file extensions will distinguish the three files so you won't be overwriting anything. And then you're going to share the three files with me. We're going to try to do this on UNM Learn, but if that doesn't work, we'll use Dropbox or something of that nature. So when you complete this activity, your Praat file will look like this. Your text grid will look like this. As you can see, I put the phrases here, the words are here, and the vowels are here. You can't see some of them because we're too far out, but if we zoom in, all the vowels have been segmented out, right? And then your Excel file will look like this. You see here are the words, and you need to just enter those in after you take the measurements. Of course, after this, we save it, and you can see I named it Praat01 File-Muriel, my last name. And then for this one, we are going to save the text grid. First of all, let's save the text grid as a text file. It doesn't matter really where you save it. We'll replace that. And then we go to the Praat Objects menu, and we also need to make sure we save the sound too. So we'll save that as a WAV file. Okay, and that'll be it.